Today on CTA Live, we're going to be talking digital ministry, specifically digital prayer ministry with the great Billy Taylor from digitalprayerroom.com. And it all starts now. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of CTA Live. In case we haven't met, my name is Dave Curley, and I'm the founder of Church Training Academy, which is a website and a community where we are all learning how to use and exploit technology and digital media in order to change lives, reach people, spread the gospel. That's what we're trying to do. And today, with me, I have my lovely and talented, he's not Batman, he's not Flash, he's not, well, he might be Aquaman, I'm not sure. Justin Nava, how you doing there, buddy?
Hey, what's up, guys? Ignore everything Dave said. I am definitely not a superhero. Don't look into that any further. I'm just a normal, average day, easygoing guy that just happens to be here on this podcast. Don't look any more into those claims. Don't believe what the media tells you.
The fake media, right?
Yeah, hashtag not Aquaman.
Yeah. Okay, so I totally remember on is it The Big Bang Theory? They're always harping on Aquaman. When the guys dress up as Justice League, it's like the guy that's going to be Aquaman. That's always like the joke. It's like, oh, Aquaman is like the worst out of all the whole things. Dude, have you seen the Justice League trailers coming out? Aquaman.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's been perpetuated that Aquaman, and I'm a comic book guy, I'm not a huge DC guy, but at least I understand this. You know, Aquaman isn't just a guy who talks to fish. He has other superpowers. He has other abilities, and you really never hear about those because everyone just jokes, oh, Aquaman, he just talks to fish, and a fish gets him a can of Coke or something like that. His powers go a little bit more beyond that. So yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of that in the Justice League movie. I hope it's going to be good.
And the dude who's playing Aquaman, I am not going to lie, and I say this with with 23 years of wonderful marriage to an absolutely wonderful woman, that is a good looking dude. I am not lying. That if I could look like that, I'd be Aquaman too.
I think you mean when you look like that, because you and I, we're going to start training tomorrow. We're going to be doing 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 push-ups, and 1,000 squats. We're going to call it, we're going to do that every day. We're going to call it the Aquaman training. That's going to be our second business venture.
That's it. And I'm going to grow my hair long, and I'm going to have my beard and stuff, and I'm going to have this like stern look on my face the whole time and stuff. You guys are going to freak out. It's going to be awesome.
And that'll be great for me because people will stop thinking I'm Aquaman, which is not true, guys. It's not true.
Hey, we want to welcome everybody. We're glad you guys are here. Today, we are going to be talking about digital ministry. And it's funny, the person that we're interviewing today, we actually interviewed him a couple of days ago. Our schedules were conflict and we couldn't have him live. Hopefully, he's in the chat room. When we sat down with him, we started talking, and Justin has known him for many years. I actually have known him for a couple of years and didn't realize that I knew him. As it turns out, he was the pastor at a church down the street from us, like about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from my house. And he also came and was a fill-in worship leader a few times at our church. So we've met, and when we got on the horn with each other, we were like looking at each other going, you look familiar. Yeah, you look familiar too. And then we started talking and found out that, we actually had met. But Justin, Billy Taylor, how long have you known him?
I've known him. I can't name the exact year. I would think around 2012, 13, I think. First, he came on as our interim worship pastor. We had a time where we didn't have a worship pastor for a year. So he came in and did that, put on this huge Christmas musical. I mean, really redefined what an interim pastor is in my mind. And then we got a worship pastor, so he left, went back to Dallas. And we went through then an interim senior pastor time where we lost our senior pastor had moved on. So Billy came back down and was our interim lead pastor. So he came in and interim pastored as our music guy, and then he came in and interim pastored as a preaching guy. So he can do it all. He's a Renaissance man. Billy is one of, I like to say that I have a huge fire in my belly to do ministry and do it well. And Billy was one of the sparks that really lit it up. So yeah. And then when you told me that y'all had some connection, I was like, man, this is going to be a good show.
Yeah, it is. And I can tell you the interview is really insightful. It's really cool. The interview is a little long. It's about 45 minutes or so. So by the way, Justin, I forgot to mention this earlier. If you do need to take off early, then that's completely good. And I'll be happy to close the show in your stead. That's not a problem. Um,
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, because we spent so much time in the pre-show, and if you're listening to the podcast, I want to encourage you just real quick, go watch the live show because we actually spent some time talking and kind of, I wouldn't say we're like preaching more value for you, but today's pre-show is a little bit more unique in that we spent a little bit more time in it, and we actually talked a little bit more about that kind of thing. So that's fine. I will do the tool, and then we'll start the recording, and then I'll head back to work, and I'll just finish the show in the chat if anyone has any questions.
Fantastic. Hey, so tell me about the tool. I was like all geared up to do a really cool tool, and then you were like, no, 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 I'm doing it. I got something really cool I'm going to share. So would you please tell everybody what our tip of the week is?
Yeah, that's your account. My account was, do you have a tool of the week? Because I could just do a website essential. We could just do that. That's my side of the story. But we have this really cool resource now. It's the first one that I got to make for Church Training Academy, so I'm especially excited for it. It's what I've been called to do, and it's what I've really developed a knack for, which is church websites, not just websites, because church websites are a unique beast. Just like if you have any experience or know someone that's a church administrator, running a church, the business side of a church is much different than running a small business by itself. So there are things that make church websites unique. So we actually created a resource, a free guide for you called the 7 Church Website Essentials. So today I want to give you one of the essentials to kind of tease out the free resource. There's 7 of them. I'm going to give you one today. And it's one that I see missing on a lot of church websites and a lot of business websites too. But it's super important because church websites, every time someone comes to our website, we want them to do something. So imagine, you have someone come to your church for the first time, they park, they drop their kids off, possibly they go into the sanctuary. You don't want them just to leave and kind of be a passerby in your church experience. You want to actually know that they were there. So what do we do in church? We get up on the stage, and during the announcement time, we say, hey, we're glad you're here. There's a Connect card available for you in the bulletin or the seat back in front of you. We'd love for you to fill that out. Let us know that you were here. Let us know how we can better serve you. And you want them to drop it off in the offering plate or maybe turn it in at the information center for a free gift. We do that in church because we want to know who was there, and we want them to take that action. But on the website, we get a little timid. We just put our information out there and hope they do something. So church website essential number 1 is basically tell your visitors what you want them to do. Don't be a little timid. I mean, believe it or not, people want to be told what to do. There's nothing more frustrating than when I go to a website to find some information. I find we do this a lot with gear. Like I go look for a certain camera. I find it on a website, but then it doesn't tell me anywhere where to buy it. It just tells me that this camera exists. There's no button to buy it. There's no resource to tell me where to find this camera. It just lists the camera specs, and that really frustrates me. And if someone's looking for your church in your area, you want to tell them what to do to take that first step to get to your church. So for many of us, maybe the first thing we want people to do on our website is to plan a visit. This is very popular among the church websites that are doing it. So instead of saying, hey, we're a church of Christ-loving disciples, here's our ministry information, and that's it. And okay, great. Now, how do I get there? What time should I get there? What should I wear? People are asking those questions when they go to your website. So what I like to do is just put a button at the top of your website where you say, hey, we're a place where you can feel family. Put a button underneath it that says plan your first visit or plan a visit. And when they click on that, take them to a page that's, lists all the information. You can list your map, service times. You can list testimonials, kind of people you'll meet. Here's the kind of donuts we have. Here's where you can check in your kids, a map of the building. Think about what you want people to do. The first thing you want them to do after coming to your website. Now, maybe that's not it. Maybe you want them to watch a sermon because you have a pastor that says, man, if someone would just hear Pastor Joe preach, they'd feel compelled to come to a service and connect. Then tell them to watch a sermon. Tell them to watch a sermon. So when they say we're a Christ-loving family and you're welcome here, preview a sermon. Big button, preview a sermon or watch a sermon. Whatever that is, there's dozens of things you can select for people to use as your call to action. So watch let me start with plan a visit, watch a sermon, meet the staff, advanced kids check-in, watch a testimonial. There are so many others. You could even do subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Facebook. If you're really active there, You can link to that if that's what you want them to do. But the first thing you have to ask is, what is the first thing? What is the primary reason we have a website? And what do I want people to do after they visit? So put that there. Tell them what to do. Plan a visit. We do this on our business websites. Welcome to McDonald's. Place your order. I don't know if they have online order. Maybe Chili's is a better example. Welcome to Chili's. Place your order. That's what you want them to do. See our menu. I'm hungry. It's lunchtime, so I'm thinking about food websites. But also, you go to a publisher's website. Buy our new book. Okay, there you kind of see what I'm talking about. Now that you've kind of heard what I'm talking about, call to action, tell people what to do. You'll start seeing it on websites all across the web, and hopefully you'll add a button, just a simple button on your website that says, do this, plan a visit, watch a series. So that's church website essential number 1. Tell your visitors what you want them to do. That's going to get them one step closer to actually visiting your church in person.
And what we want you to do is go where?
Wait, say that again.
And what we want them to do is go where?
What we CTA want them to do?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. That's my bad. I just saw the little placard at the bottom. So let me give you an example. Go to betterchurchwebsite.com. That if you go there, that's going to take you to to download the resource 7 church website essentials. I just gave you number 1. There are 6 more that are just as valuable to get more people into your church. The 7 church website essentials is not about building a prettier website, because I've even seen beautifully designed websites fail because they don't tell people what to do.
That's right.
So the essentials work for any website, any church of any age, in any region. It's all about putting strategy. It's the first steps to put strategy into your church, to create it, to make it what I call a visitor generating machine, something that'll work for you, for your church, instead of you working for it. So don't worry about, is this platform for me? My church is too small. My church is too whatever. It's for you. So betterchurchwebsite.com. That's what I'm telling you to do now.
Awesome. And we are going to bring up our interview with Mr. Billy Taylor. And Justin, thank you for that fantastic tip. Really appreciate it.
Guys, and we'll go more in depth with the article next week.
Yes,
on
absolutely.
different calls to actions you can use and how to implement them.
Absolutely. And guys, definitely go to betterchurchwebsite.com. Even if you're already on, if you've downloaded the live streaming for Churches the Easy Way, and already getting emails from us and stuff, go ahead and grab this as well. And all of these resources, by the way, we're still working on some of the back end stuff for our members, but any of these resources that we create are being made available to all of our members. We're actually putting together like a lending library in our membership area where you can grab these PDFs and stuff. So members, this will be available to you. But if you are not a member, guys, definitely grab this. It's got some great insights. Okay, now let's bring on the lovely and talented Mr. Billy Taylor. Billy Taylor is the founder of National Prayer Room, a ministry focused on encouraging prayer and spiritual awakening. He has a passion for helping Christians experience all that God has for them. Billy has served in churches as worship leader and senior pastor. He served as executive director of Lamar Boschman Ministries and the International Worship Institute. Most recently, he was the director of major gifts for Rise Against Hunger. He's the author of Praying for Her, Praying for Him, and Praying for Pastors, which has been used by over 45,000 people in 129 countries. He's a native Texan like me, and he's got 3 grown children, lives in the Fort Worth area, very close to me actually, which is totally awesome, and I'll forgive him for being a graduate of Oklahoma Baptist University, as I'm from Howard Payne University, where real Christians go. Billy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I'm not sure about the real Christian comment, but we'll just let that pass.
Well, it's between you and God, and you guys can get that worked out, okay? Hey, before we get into talking about National Prayer Room, I got like some rapid fire questions for you real quick to kind of break the ice and let folks get to know you on a really deep and intimate level. So here we go. Are you ready?
All right. Sounds great.
Okay. So Whataburger or Chick-fil-A?
Whataburger.
See? Okay. I thought you said you were saved, but okay. Let's see.
I'm a Texan, though.
Yes, you are a Texan. That's right. So like Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, Star Trek.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Okay. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Probably an extrovert.
Okay. Justin, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an introvert.
I tell people I'm like an omnivert or something. It's like,
There you go.
I can be extroverted and really be out there and stuff, but there's a lot of times that I want nothing to do with people, and I can like hermitize for 3 or 4 days and only go out to go to Chick-fil-A or Whataburger, and that's about it. Billy,
Yeah,
thanks
I'm an introvert in training. That's
an
for sure.
introverted training. That's awesome. So, hey, Billy, tell me about National Prayer Room. Give me a 50,000-foot view of what this is and how you got this whole thing started.
Sure. Well, it started about 5 years ago out of my own experience. I was a pastor, had been a worship leader, been in ministry all my life. And we went through some pretty rough times in our relationship. And my wife was struggling with some issues of depression and some other issues like that. And as I began to think about, my own experiencing praying for my wife, I realized how bad a job I was doing and had done. And then began to think, well, if I'm doing such a bad job and I'm a minister and pastor and all these things, what about just the regular guy? And so as I began to talk with fellas and get their input and talk with them, I began to realize really it's rampant across the board. Most Christian men know they should pray for their wives, know they are supposed to pray for their wives. They've raised their hands at meetings and retreats and all those things, but the reality is they don't. And I think there's a couple of 3 reasons. One is, hey, let's face it, all guys are ADD. If it doesn't honk, beep, or squawk at us, it doesn't get our attention. And we've got great ideas and great aspirations, but if it's not right in our face, we forget about it pretty easily. And then I think the second is most guys don't know how to pray for their wives. Once they get past, God help her be a good mom, help her be a good wife, okay, I'm pretty much out of gas. And so because they don't know how to pray, they stop praying. So the idea was, what if I could just spoon feed a guy over a period of time, give him a little help every day, give him a reminder every day to pray for his wife. And though that's where praying for her began. And so the idea is this: instead of dumping a boatload of information on someone, let's just give them a spoonful at a time and give it to them every day. So when a guy signs up for praying for her, he gets an email every day for 31 days with a different scripture, a different topic, and even a sample prayer. So if he's at ground zero and says, I don't even know where to start, then he can start right there. And so after a month, he's developed a habit of praying for his wife. He's got scriptures he can pray for his wife, topics he can pray for his wife. And so that was kind of the kernel of the beginning. And really up in Southlake, Texas, just north of where I live, I was at a Starbucks one morning with a guy, and we began to just talk about the idea. And that kind of was the kernel beginning of National Prayer Room. National Prayer Room is all about encouraging people and encouraging prayer and spiritual awakening, and to use technology to leverage that. So we did praying for her. Then we created praying for him, which was the same type of thing for ladies, and then praying for pastors. And so that's been going on for about 4.5 years on a part-time basis, but engaged about 10,000 people a year through our websites. The craziest thing is the international side. When I first started this, I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could get some guy in every state? That'd be amazing. Well, long before that happened, we started getting guys from other parts of the world. The first place was Papua New Guinea.
Wow.
And then Nigeria, and then at this point, there's 129 different countries that have gone through praying for him and praying for her, and most of them, or a lot of these countries, I had to go look up on the map or Google them just to find out where they were. So National Prayer Room now expands that. So we've got those 3 areas. We're going to begin creating some new programs, and then also focusing on helping people to pray for spiritual awakening, because I believe right now the average Christian is asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, I agree.
They're going to church, they're doing the things they're supposed to be doing, but as far as experiencing any dynamic Christian life, they're missing that. And then because of that, that's why the church is not reaching our communities. I believe it's not that we need better preaching or that we may need better music or be better this or that. The issue is most of us are not living a Christian life that's worth sharing. And that's the problem. So that's our goal, is to help people experience a new level in their walk with God. And you do that at that first level, is beginning to help people pray.
Okay, so let's back up for a sec.
Maybe I dumped too much.
No,
That's
that's
a little bit long.
No. That's good. I just want to go back and unpack a little.
All right, sounds great.
All right, so this all started then because a need you had in your life. You realized that you were deficient, for lack of a better term. And it's funny, as you were saying that, I realized I'm in the exact same spot. I mean, my wife and I are not having any kind of marital issues or anything like that. But I realized as you were talking that my prayer for her generally is relating to what is going on with her. So, praying that she just has a good night's sleep and is refreshed, and ready for the next day. Praying that she feels better. Praying that God protects her from her from illness and things like that, and being able to minister to her kids. But that it seems to hover at that surface level, as opposed to getting deeper and saying, Lord, make her the woman that you want her to be, or that I need, or that our children need. I kind of don't go any deeper than that. So I love that you tackled that and attacked it for guys, and the idea of dripping it out over 30 days, I think, is brilliant. I think that's great. I'm going to be signing up when we're done here. I can tell you that. Well,
and see, that's what we tried to do, because guys we pray at that surface level.
Yeah.
But when we are reminded, when we think about our wives, many women are insecure. Many women have bitterness that they've haven't dealt with from the past.
Mm-hmm.
And we began through this program, saying, hey, pray for these areas. Pray that she deals with the bitterness from the past. Pray that she deals with hurts from the past. And really talk about how to pray that her character is improved. Those levels, those deeper levels, is what we're really going after.
That's great. And, again, that is sparking something in me. As guys, we tend to deal with hurts and things like that from our past generally very quickly. We compartmentalize it and move on. We forgive and forget, or we, put that person away and we don't mess with them anymore and move on with our lives and stuff. But women internalize a lot of that stuff much more than I think we realize. And that's
true.
Yeah, that's really good. You said that once you started putting this online and it started to grow, and you were focusing on the, just growing it, center out, let's moving in Texas and then throughout the rest of the states and all that. You started getting an international audience, and that resonated with me because when I set up our the Church Training Academy YouTube channel, it's really interesting. I simply set it up so that I could have a place to put like this show and the other things, so that I could have a place to house those, so that I could then embed them on our website. And Justin and I haven't even fully, branded that and got the whole channel set up or done anything like that. But we've been getting subscribers, and we've been getting subscribers and messages from people in Africa and Nigeria and all these Papua New Guinea, like you said, and all these other countries. These people are finding us. What does that tell you, that these people are finding you without you even going out and trying to directly market to them or search them? What has that revealed to you?
It's kind of interesting that you say that. I know that about 14% of everyone who signs up will be international. I tell my wife, I'm really big in Nigeria. If I ever go to Nigeria, I'm going to be famous.
Yeah, like Hasselhoff is really big in Germany.
Yeah, right. Really big in Nigeria. But we tend to think, we don't tend to think of the law of large numbers. We, especially pastors and ministers, we think of our community, we think of the state, but we don't think of the law of large numbers. And when it comes to the internet, once you put something out there, when people are searching, they're going to find it. And I think what it says is there are more internationals searching for spiritual truth than maybe we have here in the U.S. And it gives us an incredible opportunity. I say that the greatest mission field right now is the internet. I recently heard that over the next 5 years, there are going to be 1.5 billion people, or 1.5 billion people will, so let me start that all again.
No problem.
Over the next 5 years, 1.5 billion new users will come online.
Right.
And most of those will come from developing countries. So when you think about the ability of a pastor or myself or any minister to sit in their office and to create content and to create messages that can touch places they could never go. We've had countries that I've literally had to go online and find them because I'd never even heard of the country before, because it's some little small country with 50,000 population that's an island in the South Pacific. I would never go there. Our church would never send anyone as a missionary there, but we can speak into those people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think it lets me know, and it opened my eyes to the fact that there's a tremendous mission field here that we can go in and we can touch in ways that we never would through the regular church channels.
So how do you start something like this? I think it's a noble effort, but I mean, the average church of 100 people, or maybe even a medium church of 300 to 500 people, how do we get into this mission field? Because it's no longer buy a plane ticket and raise money and go to a country. Now I have to have a website, I have to have email, copywriting. I mean, how do you get started with this? How did you get your start, and how can Pastor Joe get his start in meeting a need that he sees?
Well, I got my start in that I do have a little bit of a technology background. I was saying just a few moments ago that back in 2000, I had a streaming media company back before people were doing podcasts and churches were putting, their sermons on the web. I was doing it back then. But my first was just I created a website and started putting the content out there. And it's amazing how things get discovered. When I put Praying for Him up, it was just a website. In fact, it was done. I don't know if you guys will even know what Dreamweaver is.
Oh, yeah.
It was strictly an HTML site. It was not responsive. It was not fancy. It was ugly. It was just ugly. And I hooked it to MailChimp, which is an email service. And people filled out the form. They got on the list, and I sent them the stuff. And when I first started, it was like Texas, that's where I am, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas. Then it jumped, somebody in Seattle, Washington found out about it. And then a ministry shared it, and it started in some other states. And then it went to Papua New Guinea, was the first international location. And then it was Nigeria and Kenya. And there's just an organic side that I think is there. If you create things that people enjoy and it's meeting their needs, they're going to share it. And we don't really understand the power of what happens when people begin to share what's been happening in their life and a resource they found it. I think at church, it's interesting. I was just thinking as you spoke, if you think of an average mission trip going to cost the church $10,000 when all's said and done, to send 10 people to Central America to paint a church and build some houses or something, $10,000 invested in a website and some content, you would probably reach 100 to 200% more people through that resource than you would in that typical mission project that you did.
And then in reaching them, you could help raise some funds to send a team to do some of the physical work needed. So you start meeting the spiritual needs and all that, and then you actually have some of the funding to go and meet physical needs, or to send funding so that the people there locally can meet the physical needs. And it's kind of an amplification, it seems.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's unique about the internet is I get to speak to individuals. As a pastor, I stand up on Sunday morning and I preach a sermon, and 200 people hear it or 400 people hear it. But in creating content for the internet, one is I'm speaking to an individual. So I'm not speaking to a big group. I'm speaking to one person, and they're reading it or they're writing it. They're reading it or they're watching it. But then I begin to develop that relationship with them. We've got roughly 25,000 names on our email list right now. So if I send out an email, I'm going to send it to 25,000 people. I pastor a church of 300, 400. In one email, I can reach 10, 20 times the number of people that I did when I was pastoring. And I had that relationship. I've developed that relationship because they've gotten 10, 20, 31 emails if they've done Praying for Him. So when I send one 2 weeks later about something else or about a spiritual encouragement, we've kind of developed that relationship. So I'm able to really speak into their lives as a friend more than that pastor who's standing up on Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was one of our earlier episodes. I was talking about what to do with your live stream. After the live stream is over, and how to repurpose it, and how to take the conversation that you start on Sunday morning and start continuing that conversation throughout the week in bits and pieces using social media and your email list and things like that. And one of the things that I've encouraged folks, and Justin and I are constantly encouraging churches to do, is to build up their social media presence, and in particular their Facebook presence. I mean, I just heard that they just crossed the 2 billion user mark, and
Right.
everybody, I mean, everybody, from your age up is on. I mean, my parents are in their 70s and they're on Facebook, and we had one of the elderly ladies of our church recently die, and 2 weeks earlier she was posting on Facebook.
Right.
And
Right.
so I mean, everybody's on Facebook, and like you're saying, when you're a pastor, especially as the church gets a little bit larger, you are physically further removed from the average person sitting in the pew, just because of the sheer volume. You can't go to Sunday lunch with everybody in the church like you can if it's 150. You can, you're involved in parties and every Sunday school party and doing all that sort of stuff and building these relationships with these families. But when you're doing social media, and when you're talking online, when you're developing content and sending it out, you can start building that relationship. And it can happen through the email, through the social channels, through instant messenger, through Instagram, through all those sort of things. And that's where you develop those one-to-one relationships. And it may be 150 different people that you have this one-to-one relationship with, but these little touch points as you go throughout your week or throughout your day do have an impact with folks.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Super Bowl Sunday. I'm not a big football fan. So a year ago, Super Bowl Sunday, I was kind of watching the game, and I don't know if it was an inspiration from the Lord or just an idea, but I had this thought that what if I just emailed my group and said, hey, is there something I can pray for you about? And so Sunday of the Super Bowl, I sent out an email that said, hey, what can I pray for you about? Now, I really hadn't thought through that, because over the next 24 hours, I got 1,100 prayer requests come in.
Wow.
I felt a little bit like Jim Carrey in that movie where, you've got prayer requests where he gets the thousands that come in. I was overwhelmed. What it showed me was there's a lot of hurting people out there that may not show up at church. There's a lot of hurting people out there that need someone to speak to them, but we may not be engaging them in the way they need to be engaged. When I was at one of my churches, I used to do a weekly, what we would call podcast now, called The Pastor's Notebook. And it was just a 4-minute thing that went out on Wednesday, just audio. It was just audio that was just a kind of a little bit of a reprise of the sermon, encouragement midweek. I was amazed at how many people commented on that compared to my sermons. They listened to the 4 minutes, the 3 minutes, they might have drifted off on Sunday morning. But I think that type of communication is extremely powerful in our world today.
Yeah, I think so too. Those bits and pieces, little chunks, little touch points that you can do, I think are huge.
Well, and I think that's one, and I'm not sure what you guys tell guys, since I don't have a lot of history with you guys, but my belief is that most of the churches putting content on the web is ineffective. Let's look at
Elaborate.
ABC. Yeah, ABC Church takes and puts their sermon on the web. Okay, first is they're competing with major players who have tons of money. Second is there's a good chance that preacher may be okay on Sunday morning, but taking him and putting him into media may not be very effective.
Right.
Plus, if you look at the number of people who are actually watching streamed services on churches, it's pretty low. And most of those are church members who are, who are watching it because they're sick, because they're out of town, which is great. It's a great ministry, but it's not a great outreach. Sometimes people are checking out your church, but that medium does not, in other words, I don't think we're communicating correctly in the medium that we're working in.
Okay.
For me to sit down, perfect example. This morning we have a shower in our house that the hot water is not working. So I went onto YouTube and said, okay, how do you fix the shower? Okay. Well, there was one that was like 30 minutes. I was like, forget that. I need the 3-minute version.
Right.
I think people do that spiritually. So I think we need to be communicating our content in packets that people can absorb in that shorter period. So maybe you take your sermon and break it into pieces like radio broadcasts do, or you just repackage something else to be better communicating. My pastor at First Baptist Euless, they do Sunday morning broadcast, and they've got all the money and all the technology and all the equipment because it's a mega church. But his most effective social media projects are these little 3-minute videos that he does in his backyard that's talking about something that happened to him that's very much more personable and intimate in the communication style.
Yeah, it's content made for that delivery system.
Yes.
It's made because Facebook, we can live stream, but people don't sit down and intentionally watch a 40-minute sermon on Facebook. But while they're scrolling, they might watch a 3-minute clip. And then the same thing on Instagram. Well, the platform Instagram just doesn't hold videos longer than a minute. So you can't expect to put your sermon on there on Instagram. You have to communicate the way the platform is made to communicate through.
Right.
So
and let's face it, most of us aren't good enough to hold the audience attention when we're live,
right?
Let alone when we're streaming.
Well, you don't have the captive audience of them actually being in a building, and then you can't get up and walk out of church, and you have some limitations there. But on Facebook, you're one thumb flip away from just next post.
Right. Yeah. It's the real world. The analog to this is stopping on the sidewalk and having a 3-minute conversation. Right. Or having coffee with the pastor and he's just sharing something that's going on, or you're sharing something with him or whatever. That's the way we are. These long drawn out conversations. Those are the live event we do on Sunday is where we go and get the 45-minute sermon, or the conference we go to where we get an hour talk or something like that. Those are things that we on purpose go to because we're in the mindset that that's what we want. But throughout the rest of our week, you're right. We're looking for these conversations, these short conversations with people as we're coming and going throughout life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the most effective thing a church can do. And you don't have to have that giant budget to do that.
Right.
You could record like we're doing right now. You could record that right off your laptop and provide that type of a resource without having a lot of equipment and a lot of technology there. Or you could just be sending out short emails that go out to your people that are encouraging.
So let me ask you a question, Billy, to kind of bring it back to praying for her and praying for him in the National Prayer Room. Why email? Because everyone's talking about social media right now. That's the hit thing, Facebook. Everyone wants to be on Facebook. Young people don't check their email. No one uses email anymore. But you're showing the opposite. So what's the deal? What's going on with that? Why are you using email and how are you finding success?
Okay. Well, I think there's a couple of things. First is, yes, social media is good, but you don't own that platform. I'm a big fan of Michael Hyatt, who is kind of a guru in the communication world. And he uses that illustration that when you're using Facebook, you're using Instagram, all the social medias, that's rented property. You can have a following of 30,000 on Instagram, and they can change a rule, and you can go from 30 to 0 in one day.
Right, you're a digital sharecropper. Is how Brian Clark from Copy Blogger has always called it. You're a digital sharecropper. You're borrowing their space, and when they change the algorithm, no one hears you anymore.
That's right, and they can do that because you're just there. You're just a guest. If I collect an email, then yes, the person can unsubscribe, but I can control when I connect with them, and I know that it shows up in their email box. Now, is texting better than email? I'm looking at how we can integrate texting as part of what we're doing. But I think most of the guys online say if you're going to build a long-term online presence, it's still going to be through email. And it still shows up on your phone. Now, are you going to get them open? You're not going to get everything open. But hey, look, same thing with Facebook. The number of posts that you that you send out, you don't even have control of who sees it anymore.
No, it's
Because if they
about
don't fall into the correct algorithm, then you may post it and 5 people see it, even if they're all your friends.
right. The people that you follow, you and I follow online, the pages that we like and all that, we are only seeing about 4% of that. Out of the 100% that we've liked and followed and said, yes, I want more from this person. So yeah, you're right. Facebook is a pay-to-play platform now. So if you do want to get that message through, you are going to have to pay for it. And that just needs to be a part of your strategy for your content marketing moving forward. But with email, like you say, you can get in there. And they have given you permission. They've said, I do want to receive something from you at some point.
Right. Now, we're still, in fact, right now, I'm really working on our Instagram and our Facebook presence. I happen to have an ace in the hole because my daughter is the director of social media for a retail chain. And so she gets, she has told me I need some serious help. And so she's providing that. Since I'm a visitor in that world, she's 24. I'm 60, so I am a stranger in that land. So she takes what I do and then is translating it into the language of of those areas.
What is your demographics? Because I know I see a lot in the church Facebook groups. Young people don't open email. So is your ministry really for 40 and above, or are you actually seeing younger people sign up? I want to either verify that claim or I want to squash it like a bug.
Well, I don't know that I'm going to be able to help you do that because that's not something that we collect.
Okay.
And again, I go from the premise that the less I have to fill out, the more chances I'm going to fill it out.
Okay, that's interesting. Can you expand upon that? So you're not asking name, phone, email, address, country, birth origin?
I ask. Let's see. We ask 4 things. We ask first name. We ask the spouse's name. We ask the country and the state.
Which, considering the materials that you're doing, that does make sense.
Yeah. So I don't care about their phone number. First is I'm not going to put my phone number on not too long ago. I made the mistake of putting contact information on a website. And so then for the next, 48 hours, every 3 minutes, my phone was ringing because somebody has this, it was a health insurance thing. So I was looking for health insurance and I made the mistake of actually filling out one of those forms, and I get inundated with it. I think people are afraid to do that now. So we use the first name. Of course, we collect their email because they have to receive it. We use the first name because we personalize all the emails that go out. We use their spouse's name because we merge their spouse name into the prayers and into what we have as a little cut and paste section that says, honey, today I'm praying this for you. And so they can just highlight that, cut it, and text it to their wife or to their husband. So it merges their name into that. And then the only demographics we get then is state and country. And even that, sometimes we don't get that information. People just don't complete it. I think if you add, the more you add, the more likely someone's not going to complete that information for you.
Right. And the reality is that based on the IPs and stuff that the information that your mail service, MailChimp or Aweber or whoever you're using, they're actually able to gather that information and can let you know that so many of these people are from this country or from this country.
Correct.
So you can get that information. So yeah,
I would assume our group would be probably 25 to 65-year-olds would be our demographic. And maybe a little bit older. Since we are prayer-based for your spouse, then obviously most of the time you're married.
They have to be
Although
married.
Sometimes we get someone will put in future husband or future wife. We have folks who take these and sign them up for their children or for friends. Maybe a couple's getting married and they say, wouldn't it be great if you started your marriage off by learning to pray for your husband from the very beginning and your husband praying for you from the very beginning. So we don't have any definitive demographics on that. At the same time, you also have to realize just in email marketing, nonprofits are going to average about 19% open rate across the board. That's the industry average. So if you send out, 100 emails, only 19 are going to be opened
Right.
on any day. Now, in our praying for him and praying for her, we actually run about 78%.
Wow.
But that's because it's a very specific email that they're getting every day for that project.
Yeah. They're not signing up to get on a list or something like that. They want this little 30-day course, basically.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So what have you, from a digital ministry perspective, what are some things that you've learned that you could share with a church moving into this space? Things that we thought this, but over time we realized that it's this. Kind of like what you were saying about the broadcasting the service in its entirety and stuff is not the most effective way. Breaking it up or talking around it or talking about it at a higher level in smaller chunks, those sort of things. I mean, that's genius. That's something that I've known and I'm actually like working towards with our church. And then of course we're developing training around it as well. But what other sort of things, whether it's from the marketing or from digital ministry or, gosh, I was looking at your website and you've got people that are up there. Some of them are coming in as anonymous. Some of them are using their first name. Some of them are just putting it all out there and just saying, pray for me. Here's what's going on. Tell me what you're seeing and what you've learned.
Well, I think one is you just mentioned the prayer wall. On National Prayer Room's website, we have a place where people can submit a prayer request. And then we have, we're always encouraging our folks who are on our list to go to that and to pray for folks. And our system works so that when you there's a little button there that's when you pray for them, when you click it, it sends an email to that person that said someone from the National Prayer Room just prayed for you.
Oh, that's good. I clicked that. I wasn't sure what happened, but I saw just whoever the first person was. I prayed for that lady and I clicked it. So great. I'm glad to know that she got an encouraging email. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah, that I think is one of the pretty cool things that's there. It is interesting. There are very few, and that's a moderated list. So we don't just it has to be approved before it gets on there because of all the craziness that's there.
Sure.
But I'm amazed at how many serious prayer requests come through, and how many are family related. There's not many that come through, God bless me, I want a financial breakthrough. A lot of them are, my husband left me and we're separated or we're struggling with our marriage. It's really serious prayer requests. I think some of the things that we've learned, one is that you have to communicate in that delivery method. You've got to write in a fashion that is scannable. Most people don't really read what you write. They just read through what you write. And so it's got to be super concise. Probably one of the things I learned way early in this process was what seems like a few paragraphs on your screen looks like a encyclopedia on your phone.
Yeah, I can see that.
So all of our prayer guides are less than 400 words. Because the first few that we wrote, you had this great message and it's wonderful, and you look at it on your phone and it's just page after page after page after page after page. No one's going to read that. I think you've got about 200 to 300 words, and that's probably max. That took some discipline to go back and rewrite things to make them super concise, and honestly to kind of dumb them down, not in the negative side, but just that it's super easy to read, that it flows very smoothly. I think the other side is on the audio side and the media side is realizing that a lot of people are listening to you with earbuds in their ears and you're going right into their brain. So audio weirdness, noise, poor audio quality, those type of things are just amplified 1,000 times when you have those things in your ears.
Right.
And so the audio quality needs to be excellent. It's not that hard to do nowadays, but I'm surprised how many buzzes, hums, strange things are going on in guys' material. So really keeping it super clean, I think, is incredibly important. And then understanding that you have the ability to speak into the world. And that there's going to be people who are in other parts of the world who are going to hear this, and understanding that you need to think through how that's implied. A number of years ago, I was in Ukraine. We were doing, this was way back when, I hate to admit it, it was 1993.
Wow.
And I mean, they were still using coupons. They didn't have a currency. And we did one of the first crusades in that area back when they were doing, football evangelistic things. And we had a number of preachers with us. One of the guys there his illustrations were all favorite illustrations from the U.S. So he was a Texan, and he mentioned the Alamo. Now, the Alamo does not really relate very well if you're in the Ukraine.
Right.
And I think understanding that how you communicate to an international audience is radically different than how you communicate to the folks in Southeast Texas.
I'm curious. Do you segment your list as best you can by an international audience and tailor the messages to them?
Not at this point, and not in the program that we're doing. I'm looking at opening I've got 2 or 3 other projects that I'm wanting to release this next year that will have probably more of an impact on.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Right now, with it just being 13, 14%. The majority of our folks still are U.S. or Western Europe listeners and participants. So it's not as radical as it would be if we began to change that.
Right. And if you're writing stuff that is skimmable, if you're trying to keep colloquialisms out and write on a 6th, 7th, or 8th grade level, then they're reaching out to you speaking English, so they should be able to cotton to what you're saying.
Well, luckily, I'm fairly unsophisticated, with not a large vocabulary, so I fit right into this. I try to write maybe I accidentally write at about 4th grade level, but it works real well in this regard.
See Billy run.
Yeah.
Well, we would consider, a lot of pastors would consider unsophistication a hindrance, but really online, when you get to the point, you speak simply and you're concise, you don't fluff it up, you don't, write, you don't transcribe a 45-minute sermon in an email. You're going to find more success with that. So really, it's no longer a hindrance once we move into the online ministry. It's going to be a strength.
Right. You start saying, well, the Greek means this. It's like, next page. You can hear the clicks leaving your,
That's right.
Leaving your site as you go.
Well, cool. That's amazing. That makes me want to get started. I'm calling my pastor right when we're done with this. Hey, starting.
That's
no,
right.
Not really.
It's starting now. Well, I do think this. One of the things that we're looking at for the future is translating what we're doing. Can we do this in Spanish? Can we do this in Hindi? Can we do this in other languages?
Sure.
Because again, once we're creating evergreen content that's there, once it's done, then someone, I'm amazed. We have people in Dubai that are listening to and going through our some of our projects.
Wow.
But what if we had a language specific project to them?
Right.
I think our reach would quadruple in those areas.
And part of the translation, you can also localize some of your illustrations, things like that, especially if you're using an international team to help with the translation. So,
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I asked if that specific guy was preaching using all the Alamo and the great and U.S. illustrations. I leaned over to the pastor that was with me, who was from Ukraine, and mentioned that this guy was really doing bad. And he said it's okay. The translator was fixing everything for him.
That's a good translator. Yeah,
that's right.
So maybe in translation it can be fixed.
That's cool. Very cool. Yeah. So I'm just curious. Are you doing any audio or video, YouTube channel, podcasting, anything like that we can share with folks?
Not yet.
Okay.
At the first of the year, we're hoping to release the Daily Promise, which will be a 3-minute audio podcast on a scripture. So it will be more in the motivational encouragement format. And our idea is that would be kind of the open door. So if we can have a large audience there and then push them to other resources, that would take them at a deeper level. And then we want to do the same thing at a discipleship side of creating some discipleship teaching that that could be a ground base, so that maybe we're looking at doing 3 lessons for 12 weeks that are short, that even if you're just a guy in a church and you're meeting with someone, you don't have to teach it. Just say, hey, listen to these. We're going to listen to these 3 for the week. They're going to come to your email box, and then we'll discuss them at the end of the week over coffee or at Starbucks or in a small group. Those are some of the things that I'm looking at for this next year as well.
That was very encouraging. I wish I had more questions, but Billy knocked it out of the park again.
We're at nationalprayerroom.com, and then there's prayingforher.com, prayingforhim.com, and then one other we haven't talked about, which is prayingforpastors.com.
Okay, tell me about that one.
Praying for Pastors is really one of the exciting things, at least for me personally, because it's in that same format that the praying for your husband or praying for your wife is on, except it's for your pastor. Most pastors are struggling with loneliness. They're struggling with overwork. They're struggling with fear, all these things. And yet they can't stand up on Sunday morning and ask for prayer. If your pastor got up on Sunday morning and said, I really need you to pray for my wife and I, well, there'd be rumors, by 3:00 that something was going on in their relationship. Or if he even got up on Sunday morning and said, I'm just really discouraged, and every Monday morning I'm ready to go sell used cars over preaching. That's what guys are going through, but who can stand up and say that? So what we did is the same type of approach. I went through my life and said, when I was a pastor, what were the things that I was struggling with, but would never tell anybody? And then put those into topics that people could pray for. So as an outsider, as an outside guide, I can say, your pastor's probably struggling with discouragement. And so here's a scripture, let's claim for him, and then talk about that in a prayer time. We can talk about, pastor's wife is probably dealing with bitterness because she hears everybody complain about the pastor, and that's her husband. They're probably dealing with issues of feeling like they're living in a fishbowl and everybody knows everything about them.
Yep.
Those type of needs that the pastor really has are what we should be praying for, as opposed to most people are going to say, God, help him be a great pastor this week. Help him have a really good sermon. That's the outcome. That's not the central thing.
Right.
Those are the type of prayer requests that we're working through when someone signs up for praying for him and or for praying for pastors. That's been an exciting thing because we've had churches say, let's get 20 or 30 people at the church going through this together. And so if you had 50 people in your church that you knew were praying for you every day, very specific needs, that's a very encouraging thing for pastors.
Yeah, I can see that. That's the psychological benefit of just knowing that they're praying for you and they're praying for you on a deep level, not just the surface and success.
Yeah,
I think that's huge. That develops a little bit of intimacy between you and those individuals, and I think that's huge. Yeah, we don't think about our pastors as being lonely because they are, especially as the church gets larger. We talked about they are more further removed from the actual people in the pews in a relational way. So, yeah.
And pastors' wives extremely lonely because they can't. If you're in, we were on staff at a church in Borger, Texas, which was 18,000 people. A staff member or pastor's wife can't tell anyone, I am so fed up with so-and-so, or I am so discouraged, or I am so mad at my husband because bang, it's going to be all over town. And so they know they can't share their heart with anyone. And most pastors and then most pastors' wives don't have that intimate confidant that they can share their heart with. And it becomes a very lonely vocation.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, this is huge. I love what you're doing. I think this is really necessary. And like you found out, there's a lot of people out there that are hurting that are reaching out to you and to the prayer wall, especially for help. And I'll tell you that kind of speaks to the fact that you and me and Justin and our wives and our friends and other brothers and sisters in Christ may not be doing our job that we should be doing as effectively as we should be doing it in interpersonal relationships. Because if our friends don't feel that they can come to us and say, hey, my wife and I are having a hard time, please be praying and pray with me now for my family and for my marriage and stuff, it's incumbent on us to do that. It would be great if the National Prayer Wall was not necessary because we were doing it in a one-to-one relational way with just with the people around us. So I hope this dwindles in success ultimately, if that makes sense.
I hope so too. Hey, I would be happy if that were the case. I think that I think though there is still that one of the things that the internet does provide is a level of anonymity.
It does, and
I can
security
say
in that.
Yeah, I can say, hey, I've got this struggle.
Yep.
We're looking at creating a virtual prayer room this next year where we're going to do a video cast where people can text in or chat in prayer requests, and then we'll pray for them live with the group who are watching.
Wow,
and we're going to do some experiments in that regard.
That's cool. That's cool. Having a virtual prayer meeting.
Yeah.
I like that. That's great, Billy. Thank you for taking a few minutes out and just sharing with us and sharing some of your story and sharing what you guys are doing. I hope this is an encouragement to our viewers in ways that they can think about their ministries and how they can tweak their ministries. A lot of the stuff that you're doing, I think, could directly apply to various areas of a church's ministry, a church's digital ministry as well. So thank you for sharing with us and being here. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I appreciate it so much.
Well, there you have it. So nationalprayerroom.com. That's Billy's ministry. And be sure to check that out. Be sure to check out prayingforhim.com, prayingforher.com, and prayingforpastors.com. If you're not praying for your spouse at the level that she needs or he needs, I really suggest that you do that. I know I'm going to go take a look at prayingforher.com. I want to learn how to pray for my wife in the most effective way that she needs. And so I want to encourage you to do that. I want to thank Billy again for being our guest this week, and thank Justin, who has already gone back to work and is back in the trenches, for being here as well. Guys, if you are looking to improve your church's website, if you're looking to make sure that your website is the most effective piece of most effective tool, I guess we could say. It's really a tool for you guys. Then be sure to go check out our free resource at betterchurchwebsite.com. And guys, thank y'all so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below, and we will see you guys next week. Take what you've learned, apply it to your ministries, and go change lives.